Parents of Reddit, what did you find in your kid's room that you put back and never discussed with them? I wasn't snooping, I was helping him organize all his collections of stuff. When he was in high school, I came across an old metal cookie tin filled with paper scraps. He'd apparently torn off every good job and nice work comment he's ever gotten from his teachers, as well as all of the happy birthday and love yous from all his cards. I realized how important those tangible affirmations are to him, so I've made it a point over the last 15 plus years to write things down in addition to telling him. He's got pretty severe anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and I'd like to think that, if I'm not with him, one of those little pieces of paper might help him get through whatever he's dealing with. You're an excellent parent. Keep it up. As someone with pretty much all that crap myself, I'd kill for parents like that. Mind shame me for my beliefs, and remind me how worthless I'm constantly. When I was 9ish, my mom got me a light up handled back massager. I was obsessed with it. It looked like something space age and did wonders on my neck and back. My older teenage sister stole it from my room one day and I noticed it on her nightstand. She wouldn't give it back and I told my mom she stole it, but mom just said just let her have it. 20 years later, and I finally understand. Well, did your mom get you a new one? Understandable then, but I would've been mad regardless of the use if someone stole one of my possessions. It's actually disregardless. I'm the kid, but once my girlfriend accidentally left her undies under my bed. Every so often, when I'm away for an amount of time, my mum will clean up my room and do some washing. When I got back one time, I found her undies washed with mine and left for me to put away in my room. She's never mentioned it to me. Your mom's a bro. Hell yeah, she is. I hope my mom would be the same way whenever I do get a GF. 16RN. This school year was when I was planning on getting into high school dating, but COVID happened and those plans went down the drain. My son is a very talented artist. While cleaning his room, we found a drawing that he'd done as sort of a 3-part comic strip. First panel, there was a pretty girl wearing bib overalls, the kind with the straps over the shoulder. Second panel, one of the strap buttons popped loose and the strap was flying back over her shoulder as the overalls started to fold down. Third panel, the girl, breast exposed, had a perfect look of surprised embarrassment on her face. The reason we didn't say anything was because he was a pretty shy 11-year-old and we didn't want him to stop drawing by embarrassing him. I regret not taking a picture of it, though, because it was really impressive artwork for a kid. But he was drawing his own 30th, the perfect crime, no evidence to be left behind, except for that comic, but we don't mention that. When I was 11 years old I made a PowerPoint which was nothing but the lower parts of a woman and a peen going in and out over and over again. You get creative. I was the kid, but had a relevant experience. When 50 Shades of Grey first came out, I bought the book and left it on my bookshelf. My parents never really looked around my room in depth like that and aren't really up on pop culture, so I didn't think it'd be a thing. Welp, my mom I guess had at least heard of 50 Shades. She's too out of touch to actually have understood the premise and saw that I had it, so she took it from me without asking. She still does this, snoops and just takes things. I hate it. I didn't notice it was gone until one day, probably a few months later, when I was looking for some documents in her room and I pulled open a drawer and saw my copy of 50 Shades in there with a bookmark and everything. I didn't even know WTF to do. Like, my mom stole my erotica. Do I take it back? Do I even want it back? So I just closed the drawer and never mentioned it. She never gave it back either. No joke, my mom was so mad off when she found out I had used the computer to look at 30 early internet days. I was grounded for 2 months. During the time I was banned from using electronics or seeing friends, I started reading. There were 2 bookshelves in the study where the computer was located, so I started there. About the first quarter of the left bookcase was stuff my dad liked reading. Clive Cussler, Tom Clancy, John Grisham, etc. And the other 1+3/4 of bookshelf was books my mom read. I finished picking through some of my dad's novels and started reading a book from my mom's selection. I picked it because of the cover art. Awesome dude wielding a sword and protecting someone dressed like a princess. I figured it was some kind of fantasy book. Wrong. It was erotica. All of my mom's books were erotica. When I confronted her about it, she didn't see why I was upset that I couldn't look at 30, but she could read graphic depictions of sex. She was not amused when I boxed up all her books and told her she would get them back when I was done being grounded. Did that actually work? Not a parent, but I wish my mom could have the decency to respect my space and treat my brother and I equally. This was back when I bought my first toy. My mom borrowed my purse without telling me. I left the toy in there and she found it. It was brand new and unopened. She woke me up from a nap to have a talk. She was crying and acting like I killed someone. Meanwhile, last year she found condoms in my brother's weed stash, but didn't confront him. I hate these double standards for men and women. Ironically, when my grandmother and aunt visit, they snoop in my mom's room, and she hates it. Tell your grandmother and aunt to snoop more. Better yet, put embarrassing stuff in there right before they enter. Not a parent. When I was in high school I needed an empty showbox for a school project. I went into my parents' closet in search of one and see a Nike showbox up on the shelf, only it wasn't empty. It had like an ounce of weed in it. At the time, I was so shocked and kinda freaked out. I never said anything about it, but a few months later I got high for the first time on their supply. I hit up the showbox a couple of times after that, but it was pretty quickly relocated. My dad sent me to start the pellet stove when I was 15. I found a cupie of weed was taped to each wall. I quickly stashed it for him in a different hiding spot, started the stove, and told him that night where it was. He crapped a brick because I thought I was going to tell my mom. She knew about it, but didn't want me to know, so she would have been mad. He'll still call me to laugh about it every year when he starts the pellet stove for the first time of the year. When I was in middle school I used to wank with the handle of a hairbrush, and I once witnessed my mom pull it out from under my bed and furrow her brow, trying to figure out what was flaking off the handle. That was not her "what is this" face. That was her "I can't believe she doesn't wash it" face. Parents of Reddit, why the hell are you invading your kid's space? I'm a dad to a now adult woman. I never went through her stuff. It shows a lack of trust. If you build a strong relationship with your child you don't need to break their trust and can have open and honest conversations with them. Any one of us parents would have been or were furious if our parent went through our things, so why is it okay for you to do it? Anything that my mom did as a parent that broke trust or was disrespectful, I in turn learned from it and did not do those same things to my daughter. Don't do to your kids what you didn't want your parents doing to you. It might not be parents actively going through their kids' stuff, just getting things out of their room. My children are really young, so this post isn't really relevant to me. But when my brother lived with us, he was an absolute slob and I regularly had to go in his room to replenish our bowls from the ones he left in there. If I had been his parent, I might have also taken the opportunity to strip his filthy sheets. My dad is a dog trainer. He doesn't anymore, but from the 1980-2010ish he trained canines and drug dogs for different police departments. He used to do raids on my room. Every so often I would come home from school and my stash of weed or pipes would be on my bed with a note that says "find a better spot, I need more of a challenge." Bold move, even having weed or pipes around with occasional police dog raids in your home. You've got spunk, kid. How'd you like to train drug dogs like your old man? Meh. I was a great student, played a varsity sport and a musical instrument. My parents couldn't really say much about me smoking pot. My dad wasn't a cop, just is really good and training dogs, so he got paid to do it. I've been training dogs since I was a little kid. I even managed their kennel for a few years in my late 20s. I love dogs, but it's not my passion. New parent. Haven't had the opportunity to bust my 16-month-old with anything particularly scandalous yet. My dad used to find the weed that I'd hide in the old Nintendo cartridge drive and dip into it, albeit in modest portions. This was throughout high school. We both knew, but had an unspoken agreement not to acknowledge the obvious. Fast forward to college, and I'm back visiting my parents nearly every other week, and I'm hiding weed in his work boots and staying mama's grams disappear. Least I could do given that he was paying my tuition. One fateful weekend visit right before Christmas and I come back with a bag of shroom-infused chocolates that I have picked up as party favors. I've not since seen a production this well done. Each chocolate was expertly molded. The clear giveaway was the plastic baggie. I stash it away in the most random nook of the garage that I can find. No way anyone will ever check there. It's Christmas Eve, and I'm getting ready to head out to a friend's party, and I'm making a beeline for my stash spot. My dad walks in right before I reach the destination and says, "Ate your cookies." "Cookies? Your chocolates?" "Ate you chocolates? Dad, those are not safe." I'm imaging the worst case bad trip school scare movie playing out in my mind. "What's not safe?" "Dad, those are magic mushrooms." I pull out the half-eaten bag. "You ate 1/4 ounce." He becomes quickly enraged. "I've been eating goddamn mushrooms before you were a twinkle in my eye and I'll be just fine." I invite him to come to the party with me. He insists on staying home and watching South Park. I reluctantly write down my cell phone number and place it in his shirt pocket and tell him to call me if he needs me. Many hours later, I come home and sure as crap he's still watching South Park and enjoying what I'm sure was one of many drinks. What a trooper. I love you, Dad. I still hope to grow up to be half the man you are. This post gives me so much anxiety thinking about what my parents did find in my room and confronted me about. They thought they were doing the right thing, but they just made me distrust anyone with my possessions and traumatize me with shame and guilt for being a developing teenager. My parents get mad at me if they find a food wrapper in my room. I can't imagine what they would do if they found most of the things people are talking about on this post. Not a parent, just a sister who lives with her brother. We are both in our 30s and divorced. He has a house and I moved in with my daughter to save money and finish my last semester of school. I try to help out a lot around the house because I know he is really helping me out right now financially. So I do the cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Took the laundry basket and started to load the 2 other day and found some sex toys in the bottom. Quickly replaced and covered with clothes. Never gonna mention that one. Maybe the most evil thing I have ever done was tell my little brother to go show my mom the cool vibrating stick he found in her room in the middle of her dinner party. He proceeded to dance with it in the kitchen and click through all the speed settings until she had to rip it from his hands and run upstairs. My mom still doesn't know that the most embarrassing moment of her life was masterminded by her own son. Take it easy, Satan. Not the parent. My aunt was cleaning her son's room and found his stash of gay 30th. This was before he came out. I honestly felt bad for him because she was awful about it, so he lied and said it was a friend's and that she had just left it there. She seemed to accept that answer. Never was brought up again. I will say that he's fully out and engaged to a man. I think she reacted the way she did because she was scared for him. Grew up in an old-fashioned Portuguese Catholic home. So I think she was afraid of my grandparents' reactions, who honestly just seemed happy that whoever he brought home would eat a ton of the food they prepared. Back in the 70s I grew a few marijuana plants between the tomatoes in my dad's garden, fully expecting the plants to not do too well, but they did. They did very well. Then one day they were gone. I didn't ask. He didn't tell. Months later at my sister's wedding reception, there is a procession of guests coming and going from my parents' room. Every time the door opens, smoke puffs out from the door. I investigate and find aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone is in getting high on the weed I grew and my dad harvested. And not even a thank you. When I was in high school, my boyfriend and I went through his parents' bedroom to look for a silver penny he claimed his mother owned. As we were searching the dresser drawers, we came across a compartment that was full of gifts I had given him throughout our relationship. A mood ring, letters, pictures, books, sunglasses, etc. For years, I had thought my boyfriend had lost so many gifts I had given him, but it turns out his mom was just taking them from his room and hiding them the entire time. He was a total mama's boy and I think she was trying to break us up. I didn't even confront her about it. The silver penny is a steel penny 1943. They needed the copper for World War II. They aren't worth much more than a penny, but are kind of cool, look neat, and are magnetic. The kid in this situation. Enjoy my childhood idiocy. Got really into finding gaming hosts on YouTube and drawing to them on the internet back when I was like age 10 or so. Stumbled upon a video that was some sort of shipping video for a couple of Pokemon characters. I thought it was super cute. I really liked the song, no biggie. Only stupid sheltered child me saw a slide from it where the two were swimming and the boy had his hand on the girl's face. It was very clearly not sexual. They weren't even kissing. But the issue is you couldn't see clothes in either. I just assumed mom would think I was there for nudity or something and get upset. Yeah, so long story short, my stupid ass decided to write a self-note on a slip of paper reminding myself of how to find it so I could hear the song again and just casually lay it face down on my bed frame. Yes, she found it. And yes, she, rather justifiably, thought that was 30th. Told all her friends. Kept the note 100% sure she never even found out how laughably tame it actually was. Nobody's ever brought it up since, and I die inside thinking about it, so I won't either. Ended up finding the note a few years later, and obliterated that thing. Glad I did. Maybe the memory will die with me, and with all of you internet strangers, the first people I've told this to. Brother complained he needed a new mattress because his was old and hurting his 16-year-old back. Mom went upstairs later and decided to turn the mattress. Mom found a pyramid of 30 magazines under the mattress on the box spring. The top of the 30 pyramid was a movie. Mom took the movie and moved the magazines to a drawer she emptied out. Brother came home. Son, I don't think you need a new mattress. I checked it out and fixed it for you. Let Mr. Name of Friend know what happened to his tape. Brother ran up the stairs 2 at a time. Screamed. Never came back downstairs. Heard his buddy got grounded for loaning out his dad's 30th. The dad had to call my mom and asked if she still had the tape because VHS 30 was pricey. I believe she tossed the 30 out. What was the dad gonna do? Complain that minor stole his 30th? When I was in 6th grade, my dad took my whole family on a business trip with him to San Francisco for 10 days. Since I was old enough to choose my clothes on a day-to-day basis, my mom let me pack my own suitcase. She said pack whatever you think you'll need for the next 10 days and left me with a duffel bag. I set about digging through the piles of toys in my room looking for the most important things I'd need for the next 10 days, putting things like Matchbox cars and CDs of my favorite bands in the bag. I played hockey, and at some point my parents bought me a set of plastic street hockey sticks. They had rubber grips built onto them that eventually slid off the end of the stick and wound up in my room because they smelled cool. While packing, the purple one came across my gaze. I picked it up, sniffed it, and tossed it in the bag thinking I'll need something good to smell in San Francisco. Sometime later my mom came to check on me. She was, I think, expecting a bag of at least some clothes, but instead found a very heavy bag of toys and jewel cases. She started pulling things out and asking, angrily, what I thought I needed all this stuff for. She stopped, picked up the rubber tube, shook it at me, and said, and what the hell is this? She dropped it back into the bag and left my room saying you need to pack some clothes. There was a sadness in her tone. I was confused until I was about 25 and remembered this moment and realized that yes, my mother thought I'd packed a jerk-off tube for our family trip to San Francisco.